Yo, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be looking at and talking about what I think will be good and meta in Vancouver, which Vancouver Regionals is going to be literally tomorrow. So I'm excited to see what pops off. I know a lot of my friends from my locals are at Vancouver this weekend. Unfortunately, I was not able to go to Vancouver, even though it is in Canada. You'd be surprised. But yeah, all my friends are there. I'm rooting for all of them and all that good stuff. But I want to do some meta predictions as to what I think will happen in Vancouver. So we can start off here with, of course, the elephant in the room, Lugia. Obviously, still the best deck in the format. Nobody is going to deny Lugia is the deck to beat in Vancouver. Still going to be the most popular deck. I think we might see Andrew's list kind of be the optimal way to play Lugia going forward. It seems like it's the one with the best matchups. Has the best, matchup spread and all that good stuff. I think that Andrew's list is probably good. I mean, he won back-to-back regionals, which is insane. So, yeah, Lugia is still the deck to beat. I don't know if we're going to see any spicy Lugia decks. I know that Lugia Flying Pikachu is kind of on the upswing right now. So, we might see Lugia Flying Pikachu. We might also see, other cool Lugia decks. I know there's that Tall Cry Destruction Lugia deck. So, we'll have to see how Lugia kind of adapts going forward. I'm hoping to still see some Lugia spice because, for as good as Lugia is, there's a lot of cool ways you can theoretically play it. We'll have to see, but I definitely would maybe keep my eye on potentially Lugia Flying Pikachu seeing play. That does seem like a deck a lot of people are really hyping up right now, and we could see Lugia Flying Pikachu have a good performance this weekend, but just a straightforward, vanilla, basic Lugia deck is still probably just insane regardless, and I don't know if Vancouver is as big as the other regionals, so if you want an easier deck to play, Lugia might be the deck for you. Then we got to talk about Lost Box. There's a lot of ways to play Lost Box. We'll start off with the Azul Lost Box list here. Let me see if I can get the whole list pulled up here. But yeah, we got the Azul Lost Box deck. Obviously, we do have the Drapion there. I guess I can do it like this. Yeah, there we go. I just want to make it so y'all can see the full deck. I don't want to have my webcam block anything. But yeah, so Azul's Lost Box list still is pretty solid. Some people are going back to the Kyogre build of this build of Lost Box, but the build here with just Snorlax, Cram, Sableye, Dragonite, Skysteel Stone with a Raikou V is still pretty good. This was the highest placing one, I think, in Bacham Regionals, I think it was. But yeah, no, definitely still seems pretty good. Or it's Perth, actually. I think it was Perth. But yeah, no, the Lost Box Dragonite build is still pretty solid. It has a better matchup into stuff like Reggie's, which is better. So yeah, still think that this Lost Box Dragonite build is still pretty good, regardless. And then of course we got to talk about Lost Box Zamazenta Raikou, another deck that did pretty well in Perth. I think it did it. I think this was what won Perth actually. But yeah, no, the Raikou Zam build of Lost Box is also pretty good in my opinion. Basically, Raikou is just a very, very good card in the format, insanely good. Especially when you combine it with Sableye to KO Manaphy, and then you get Amazing Shot. Amazing Shot is just a really good attack that a lot of decks have to respect. And the Zamazenta is also just a really good attacker in the deck, too. Again, very good against Stoutland, hits hard, does really good numbers with, Sableye and Cram, and even Raikou, for that matter. So, I do really like this Raikou Zam Lost Box deck. I think it is actually pretty, as we would call, optimal. If you're going to play Raikou, it honestly could be better than the Rayquaza build. To be honest, because even though the Rayquaza build does have a better matchup spread into other decks, I still think the Zam Raikou split is just really good. I think Amazing Raikou is a really good card right now that a lot of people should really look into respecting. So I do like the Zamazenta Raikou deck quite a bit. I think it is pretty solid and definitely has potential. But then we got to talk about the Rayquaza build, which is still pretty good regardless. Of course, Nicholas Moffat getting top 4 with it, kind of proving that this deck is still a force to be reckoned with. A lot of people kind of bag on this deck as the worst way to play Lost Box, but it's still pretty good. And even going into Vancouver, I don't think it really loses too much steam or anything. I think a lot of people might respect it, but even then you can't really respect it as much as the other Lost Box decks, in my opinion anyways. The problem with the Ray deck, though, again, it is a bit more susceptible to Marnie. Also, it doesn't really have an answer to walls like Pikachu, Ice Cube. Some Rayquaza lists do play the Giratina V in the deck to try to shred through Ice Cube and Flying Pikachu, which I still think could be a good way to play this deck. You could even squeeze in a 1/1 Tina V-Star, so definitely could be good. As you can see, this build here plays 2 Manaphy, which is a little absurd, but definitely Rayquaza Raikou is a pretty solid deck still. I think it's the most probably the default easiest Lost Box deck to play, in all honesty. If you're going to play any Lost Box deck that is by default a bit easier than other ones, this is probably the one to play. Will we see another Rayquaza deck get top 4? We'll have to see. Might see a Rayquaza deck get top 16, though. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Nicholas Moffat getting top 4 back-to-back like that is just kind of keeping this deck on the map, for sure. And then we want to talk about the Zacian deck. Now, a lot of people are really wanting to kind of learn more about this Lost Box Zacian deck from Perth. Now, you got to remember, Perth is a smaller regionals, like it was a lot smaller. So, like, more like niche ideas have a better chance of performing at smaller regionals, in my opinion. And this deck is definitely interesting. I guess the idea is you play a lot of one-of attackers. There's a lot of one-ofs. You got Cram, Sableye, Zam, Zacian V-Star, and a Kyogre. All one-ofs. So very one-of based deck, but definitely has a lot of things going for it. I do like the idea of Zacian V-Star. Zacian V-Star is actually a pretty good attacker with the Lost Zone engine because you can use it with Mirage Gate to build it up. You have the V-Star power to take a one-shot on a wall. You also have the ability to shred with that attack that is 200. Pretty good against like Goodra. And then, of course, you have the Kyogre in the deck. And you have the Zam. You're already kind of playing naturally Metal Energy. The cool thing about Zacian V2 is Zacian V is really good with Lost Box. If you have a really slow start, you can Intrepid Sword for 3 new cards, which can actually get you closer to finding cards like Colress. So, like, let's just say you're going first. Your hand is pretty weak, but you can get a Zacian in play. You can, like, Intrepid Sword for 3 cards, and you might find a Colress, and if they don't Marnie you, well, look at that. You get to play the game. So, Zacian V is also, like, a really cool card in the Lost Zone engine regardless. You just playing the Zacian V-Star is nice to have that extra splashable attacker. Of course, having the Kyogre in the deck and the Zam does give you some good options for backup. And of course, the Kyogre late game is just really good into stuff like Mew. Will this deck see play in Vancouver? I hope so. It's a really cool way to play Lost Box, a really different way to play the deck, which I like. I like how people can kind of expand on the creativity of Lost Box. So hopefully, we maybe see more action with this Zacian build of Lost Box. We'll have to see, though. Next up, of course, is Regis. Regis is just really good right now. I think Regis actually could be better than Lost Box in a lot of scenarios. Regis has a better matchup in a Lost Box, and Regis is just also good against Lugia, really good against mostly everything in the format, apart from, like, Control, which is really all you have to watch out for, is some of the Control decks are a bit more difficult. But Regis is really good. I think Rahul has, like, the perfect Reggie list. I mean, he even made a video talking about it. So, like, I really think that Regis is just, like, the best. Honestly, maybe the best single price deck, even better than Lost Box. It's easier to play, in my opinion, too. Regis is not hard to play, in my opinion, compared to Lost Box. Yeah, Regis is really good. I think it has a great matchup spread. The problem with Regis, though, is how easy it is to tech for. Like, as soon as Regis starts doing well, people are going to tech for it, right? They're going to start playing the Collapse, the Temples, the Avery. Well, Avery is actually pretty bad, but, like, stuff like Collapse, Temple, Ice Cube might become more common. And then, of course, Flying Pikachu is still also a very, very, very big threat right now. So definitely you have to keep a watch for Regis. I think it's just a really good deck. And honestly, if I was going to Vancouver, I would probably have played Regis again. I think the deck is just that good right now. I would have probably played Reggie to Vancouver again. I think the deck is just that good. I think it's just really good. You know, just great deck all around. Really fun deck to play too, in my opinion. But it's also just, yeah, it's got a really good matchup spread across the board. It's also, I feel like it's one of the only decks that boasts a good Lost Box and a good Lugia matchup, which are the two decks you mainly want to be able to beat going into any tournament, especially something like Vancouver. The problem with Regis is I think people are going to expect more Regis this time around. Rahul getting top 4 with it twice basically means that for Vancouver, I think people are really going to respect it. But Regis is still broken, in my opinion, for Vancouver. I still think I would personally play it. It's still hard to beat, hard to tech for regardless. Like, just because you play Ice Cube and Flying Pikachu doesn't, like, auto-win the matchup. But this is why, like, decks like Lugia Pikachu and Ice Cube techs are going to start being more common, potentially, is because of how good and dominant Reggie really is. But next up is Mew decks. Now, there's two different Mew variants here. We got the Mew Pikachu deck that Andrew Mahone played at Knoxville, and then we have the Aerodactyl build of Mew. Meloetta is also pretty good too, but I wanted to note these two builds of Mew. The Aerodactyl build is still really good in my opinion, also really good against Lugia. Obviously, Aerodactyl is just a very good card. But again, the Aerodactyl is kind of cute too into stuff like Drapion. But Aerodactyl Lugia is a pretty good deck in my opinion, and definitely something that is still common. If you're playing Lugia, you have to respect the Aerodactyl in my opinion. And then of course the Pikachu build is interesting. Andrew Mahone did kind of put together this Pikachu deck for Knoxville, got 13th place with it, and did really well with it. And the deck kind of just has a lot of good matchups, I guess, with the Pikachu. Like, the Pikachu fixes Reggie a bit more, fixes Lost Box too. My main issue with this deck, the thing that kind of throws me off, is that you still have your bench full of Pokemon that are very good food for Reggies and Lost Box. Like, you're going to have Genesect. You're probably going to have a Mew VMAX in play. Your bench is going to be kind of full of, like, good cards for, like, those decks to kind of eat up. That's my only issue with this Flying Pikachu build of Mew is it's cute, it's cool, but having your bench full of those targets is very scary. I know the idea is you spam Judge and Roxanne into those matchups and make it really hard for them to do anything. I'm not sold on the strategy, but it's really cool, and I like seeing innovations like this in the format. Of course, you also have Xander's Dreepy Mew Pidgeot kind of control-y deck. But yeah, Flying Pikachu is really cool in Mew. I definitely would look into more playing it, and I really do like it. Again, I think the idea of spamming Judge is good, but the thing that really throws me off is just having all those things on the bench. But Mahone did well with it. I even sat across from him in one of his matches. I think it was round 8. I sat across from him and I watched him play the deck against his opponent. He was playing against Reggie's, and I think he won. Yeah, he definitely won, obviously. But yeah, no, he won the game against the Reggie matchups. I mean, hey, you know what? Proven me wrong. You never know. This deck could be good. Again, I just think Flying Pikachu is a really good card right now. Whether you played in Lugia or Mew or Control, definitely something to consider going into Vancouver. Next up, of course, is Arcdura. Very good deck. I think actually Arcdura is really starting to figure out that Reggie matchup even more now. You actually can attack with Duraludon V against Reggie, and that's a really good strategy because then the VMAX can't get one shot. Lost City kind of carries you. Yeah, Reggie's has a pretty interesting matchup against Arcdura. It really comes down to whether or not Reggie can actually preserve their Reggies that you're going to Lost City away, like the Regirock, for example. Like, they're going to have to net the Regirock back into their hand the turn that they use the ability so they don't get Lost City'd. And that's something you have to know as a Reggie player, is when to time your Scoop Up Net so that you can't get Lost City'd out of the game. So, yeah, Reggie's can still beat Duraludon, but now that Duraludon has kind of figured out the Duraludon V is really good in the matchup, definitely makes the matchup a bit scarier for Reggie's. But yeah, Arcdura's is good. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an Arcdura deck in top 8, to be honest. It's just a very easy deck to play, very good deck, very brainless deck. But by brainless, I also mean that it's also just very good, right? It's just, that's not a diss towards the deck by any means or anyone who plays it. It's just basically saying that it's a very simple deck at what it does. It's not doing anything crazy. You just don't have to, you just play autopilot, very autopilot deck. You know what I mean? And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Arcdura in top 8. Next up, of course, is going to be Eternatus. Now, this one you kind of have to start respecting now because of Brandon Salazar doing super well with it. Of course, Eternatus VMAX is considered a meme by a lot of people, but I really think the deck has a lot of potential. Weezing is a very good card right now. It's very good against Lugia, very good against Lost Box, and it's even good against other fringe strategies that rely heavily on abilities like Vikavolt, and also Palkia can be shut off pretty easily by Weezing. And then, of course, Eternatus VMAX is very strong because it's hard to one-shot, and once you kind of set it up, you can, easily take knockouts. I think it also has a pretty good matchup against Mew. Even, like, Mew Aerodactyl is good, because, yeah, Aerodactyl shuts off your Drapion and your Crobats and your Eternatus VMAX. The matchup is still good, in my opinion. I think just the deck is just really powerful, and I think it needs to be respected. I do understand why people consider it a meme, but I think it's, like, a really strong deck and one you have to respect. Weezing is a very strong card. It can cheese wins very easily. You definitely have to respect Eternatus, in my opinion, and I'm not surprised to see it do well. It's actually interesting that it took this long for the deck to do this well, because I really think the deck has that good matchup spread, and obviously we've seen it do well in the past in, online tourneys, but kind of needed that big breakthrough in a major tournament, so it's cool to see it. But yeah, definitely respect it. Now, E-Turn is counterable. Path of Peak is good against it. Decks that don't really care about Weezing are good against it. And also, Zapdos V is kind of cool against Weezing. If you want to put a Zapdos in your Lost Box deck, you could. If you can kind of get through the Weezings, Zapdos can kind of just destroy the Eternatus deck pretty easily, because you can just, like, Zapdos and Eternatus VMAX instantly and insta-KO it, basically. So definitely cool to see E-Turn do well. I think you do have to respect it now, in my opinion. Will we see it get top 8 in Vancouver? Probably not, but I still think it's going to have a good placement regardless, because it's still, like, a good deck. Next up is Vikavolt. Vigavolt's like a deck that nobody respects, but just continues to do well. Obviously, Vigavolt's very strong with Aerodactyl, the Raikou, the Zapdos, Vigavolt combo. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Vigavolt maybe get top 8 in Vancouver. It does seem like Vancouver could be a good tournament for Vigavolt to do well in. With all the different Lost Box decks going around, too, it makes Vigavolt even stronger. I think Vigavolt with Cape is still kind of optimal. I really did like that Vigavolt Cape build from the Seniors Division in, what was it, OCIC? Because Cape is just good against the Zamazenta, which might be more popular now, in my opinion. So, yeah, but Vigavolt, still good. Might get top 8, might not. We'll have to see. Kind of like, it's basically like Arcdura, you know what I mean? Next up is Control. I do like Control right now. I think Control might get a little better going into Vancouver, because I think Flying Pikachu and Ice Cube get a little bit stronger, with potentially Reggie's being more popular. Flying Pikachu is just also being a very good card, and then even Ice Cube can be very good. Is Pikachu Control better than Ice Cube Control? Not sure. Pikachu has more weaknesses. Obviously, it's an easier target to knock out. If you're not able to get a lone Pikachu in play, it's very easy for, like, decks to go, like, Rope Boss on your Pikachu and one-shot it. Even with a Thornton, it still is kind of tricky. But I do like the Pikachu Control deck quite a bit. I think it's pretty good. And it might be primed to make a comeback going into Vancouver. Will it get top 8? Probably not a top 8 placement, but I just think that Pikachu is just broken for Vancouver, in my opinion. And we're probably going to see Pikachu Control maybe get top 16. I'm not sure on a top 8, though, but you never know, right? I just think, like, Pikachu, Ice Cube, just really good right now. Next up is Palkia. Another deck that I want to talk about is Palkia because I think Palkia is good. Piper was able to get top 8 in Knoxville with it. It's another deck that nobody really, like, respects, but it just is an insane deck. When piloted by a good player and they're able to like sequence it well and kind of know, turns ahead what they're going to do to win a game. This deck is very deadly. Articuno is still not really being respected in Lugia. Even then, Lugia's starting to cut Birdkeeper out for like Iridescent stuff now. So like you can really see the value in Articuno in Vancouver. Still, Palkia is a very deadly deck. Crabominable's kind of cool, too, especially if Control gets more popular. Crabominable's kind of cracked. Again, that Ice Cube is another convincing reason why Palkia could be good is because Lone Ice Cube is kind of cracked. So we'll have to see where Palkia goes going into Vancouver. Wouldn't be surprised if we maybe saw it do well. Will it get top 8 again? I'm not sure on that one. We've seen Palkia kind of bubble out of top 8 multiple times in the past already and kind of finally broke through in Knoxville. But still think it's good. Again, Articuno's not really being respected right now. Ice Cube's really good in my opinion going into Vancouver. And then Crabominable is really cool into the Control matchup. Next up, I want to talk about Goodra. Don't think I forgot about Goodra. Yes, everybody loves their Goodras. Goodra just feels like one of those decks that, like, I don't know if it will ever win a major tournament, but it could squeak in a bubble or a top 8 placement if someone's lucky. It's just a deck that, like, has such, like, a weird matchup spread. It's not great against Mew, and even Lugia is still not a favorite matchup, but the deck is still good. It's also one of the only decks that might have an easier matchup against something like Eternatus VMAX. Like, as if any Lost Box deck could take down Etern, I think Goodra would maybe be the best one to do it. Because even though, like, Etern go, like, Rope Boss, they have to find the Rope Pulse Boss, which can be difficult for them to do. And Goodra's very bulky, trades well into Eternatus VMAX when they can't one-shot you and they don't poison you ahead of time. I think Goodra's just better into that matchup. But I also think Goodra's just a really good attacker. Is it going to be good, though, going into Vancouver is the question. I know people are just going to play it just to play it because it's their favorite deck right now, their default deck. They don't want to play anything else because the format's kind of stale, whatever the case may be. We'll have to see. Will it finally get a top 8 placement? Will we finally see Goodra in the top 8 again? I'm not sure. I personally don't think so, but we'll have to see. Because I know a lot of people are really just kind of all in on Goodra right now. It's like basically Goodra, just they play Goodra, they don't play anything else. That's kind of what a lot of people, are kind of on right now. And we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see. It just feels like it just feels bad to play the deck sometimes when you kind of have that weird Lugia and Mew matchup, which you don't want to take. But it does beat Reggie's, and if Reggie's going to get more popular going into Vancouver, right, it could be a good reason to play Goodra. So we'll have to see on that. Next, I want to talk about Arceus here. Arceus is a very interesting deck right now that I think is kind of bubbling under the radar, both builds of Arceus. I mean, yes, Arcdura kind of is a good deck, but I'm talking like other ways to play Arceus because there's a lot of ways to play Arceus. We got this Arceus Coco Pikachu deck, which has been getting a lot of steam now that it won a late night tournament, and it might be good for Vancouver. Coco VMAX is really cool into those wall decks. Of course, Flying Pikachu, again, I think it's just a very good card going into Vancouver because of Max Balloon being kind of broken. But I don't know if our Coco is really all that good, but it's been getting a lot of hype. It's even been doing decent online tournaments. Will it finally be time for Arc Coco to do well in a major regional like Vancouver? We'll have to see, man. I'm excited to see what people can come up with, though, with this Arc deck, because it feels decent. Like, I've played it, did a video on it on the Shovel Squad on their main channel, and I even kind of felt, the deck felt good in my hands. It felt okay. The 6 stadiums is kind of a meme, but, like, even then, it's still good. Temple Sinnoh Path is a good split. Coco VMAX, if you pilot this deck properly and play it well enough, Coco VMAX can be very hard to deal with because, again, nobody really respects Paralysis right now, which is a big reason why Coco could do well. Next, I want to talk about the Arceus box deck. Again, another deck that I think is kind of like underrated is Arc Box with Pikachu, Aerodactyl, Espeon. Really good lineup of partners for Arceus. Now, I definitely think that Pikachu, again, is just good right now. And if you're going to play Arceus, like, I think you want to squeeze the Pikachu into your deck. And I don't know, this Arc Box deck still seems decent in my opinion. I still really like it quite a bit. The Espeon VMAX is really cool right now in the format. And, the Aerodactyl is obviously good against Lugia. And again, I think Pikachu's is really good for Vancouver. So we'll have to see how this Arc Box deck does. But definitely could be primed to do well. I think it's still like an underrated and slept-on deck. And then finally, folks, the last deck to talk about here is Arc Pikachu Vulpix. I wanted to note this deck too because, again, it's been getting a lot of attention by some players. A lot of people are hyping it up. Now, this build is a little crazy. I did snag it from a late night tournament. This build's a little wild, playing Featherball and Ball Guy. Is it a meme? I'm not sure. It is a cool concept, though. But yeah, again, I think Arc Flying Pikachu's is really good right now. I'm not sure about playing the Bibarel in the deck, though. Bibarel doesn't seem good anymore because just it kind of gets bodied by Sableye. You never really want to have a Bibarel in play when you want to have a lone Pikachu in play anyways. It just feels really bad when Escape Route Boss exists, but what do I know? But yeah, no, Arc Pikachu Vulpix is a cool idea. A lot of people have been kind of hyping the deck up. Will it do well? Who knows? It might do well. We'll have to see on that one, but I do like the idea of this deck quite a bit. It seems pretty cool. Flying Pikachu's is good right now, and if you can find a good partner for it, whether it be Lugia, Arceus, Lost Box, or Mew VMAX, or Control, who knows? But hey, I'm on the Flying Pikachu train for Vancouver. I think Pikachu could be a good call for the Vancouver Regionals. But there you go. That is my meta prediction video here for Vancouver. Vancouver will be a very interesting tournament. I am very curious to see what happens. Lugia's going to get top 8, obviously, but I'm interested to see how Flying Pikachu variants do. Again, Lugia Pikachu might be primed to do well. Even, Lost Box could adapt to, like, the Pikachu, and even the Zacian, could be good against Flying Pikachu, too. Another reason why, this Lost Box Zacian deck could be good is, A, it can beat Flying Pikachu, and that's pretty good. But yeah, I'm thinking Flying Pikachu might be good, whether, again, be Lugia, Mew, or whatever. Flying Pikachu might be primed to do well. Will Lugia win the tournament? I mean, yeah, it's a safe bet. We're going to probably see Lugia win the event. But we'll have to see if Regis gets top 8, E-Turn gets top 8 again, Palkia gets top 8 again, or even an Arceus variant that isn't Duraludon gets top 8, or what other wacky decks people come up with for Vancouver. I'm excited to see it all go down this weekend, and I hope to see you all there in the Twitch chat. That'll be for me on the video here. Hope you all enjoyed the video here on the second channel. If you all enjoyed the video, leave a like on the video, and if you haven't subbed to the second channel yet, subscribe down below. What do you think will happen at Vancouver? Are you going to Vancouver yourself? Let me know. I wish I could go, but I will be at Charlotte, so if y'all are going to Charlotte, I will be attending the Charlotte Regionals. Hope to see some of y'all at Charlotte. But that'll be for me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch y'all later. Bye-bye.